course, everyone, you're watching What Now as we turn our attention to Africa. Now, Kenya, South Africa, Egypt, and other African nations are accusing the Russian government of allegedly recruiting their citizens for its war with Ukraine. In Nigeria, a Russian representative did brief and he denied those allegations. However, Kenya especially estimates that at least 200 of its nationals have been recruited by Russia to fight on the side of its war. The government says it will engage in talks with Russia that will focus on curbing illegal recruitment, a visa policy, and bilateral labor agreements, but clearly excluded military conscription. 27 Kenyans who had been fighting in Russia have so far been repatriated. Kenya has closed more than 600 recruitment agencies suspected of duping Kenyans with promises of jobs overseas. South African government is also engaging with the Russian government to see how it can curb the illegal recruitment, as well as Egypt putting stricter laws in its country to ensure that those who join the Russian military, when they return back to the country, they will face an execution. These are the issues African countries are grappling with. But for more on this development, public affairs analyst David Obule joins me on What Now. Good to have you join us, Dave.
Thank you very much, Precious. Always good to be here.
So in a briefing in Nigeria, the Russian representative denied these allegations of illegal recruitment. I just want to get your thoughts. I mean, some African countries are now saying that the trend is worrisome and some have closed down illegal recruitment agencies.
Okay. A woman was preparing to take her child to school one morning when she discovered a female wig in her husband's car. And when she brought it into the room, fuming, wanting to make trouble, the man responded by putting both his hands on his head, and then he shouted, "Woman, you..." And evidence, that thing you're holding in your hand is as an evidence from a crime scene, a murder crime scene, and your fingerprints are on it right now. The woman dropped it and began to plead for her husband's forgiveness. Denial is a 4 credit unit course in global politics. Until North Korean soldiers were, apprehended or arrested by Ukrainian forces, Russia kept denying that North Korean soldiers were not involved. So the denial of Russia that Africans are not being conscripted and sent to the war against Ukraine is nothing but a normal 4 credit unit course in global politics that Russia, is simply playing out. It's a worrisome development that a lot of young people from Africa, in a bid to seek greener pastures outside, are being lured into forceful conscriptions and sent to the battlefront. The Nigerian case of the man named Francis, I'm sure they would have also denied it if video evidences did not surface of him having a mine strapped to his chest, and then he was asked to lead a charge against Ukrainian forces, blow himself up and lead a charge against Ukrainian forces. So it's a worrisome development that speaks as to how African countries should up their game as far as the welfare of their citizens, both home and abroad, is concerned. And today, I am actually worried that Nigeria is not joining in the accusation and also taking up this issue with Russia, because it is not only Kenyans that are involved. Nigerians have been conscripted also, and video evidences on ground that Nigeria is suffering the same as far as our young people who went there for job or for education is concerned. It's a worrisome development.
So, Dave, I wanted to ask how worrisome this is, because you find that perhaps it's only the Kenya government that has taken, or that is talking tough, and maybe the Egyptian government as well. But for South Africa, there was a letter from President Ramaphosa to President Putin on how to resolve the issue. Do you think that the African countries have taken the best approach in terms of resolving these issues rather than condemnations and allegations?
I said earlier that my concern is that Nigeria is not even making any feeble attempt at challenging this particular practice that involves Nigerians. So I want to say kudos to Kenya and kudos to South Africa. At least even if it is baby steps, even if it is just faint or feeble blows they are throwing, at least they are seen to be doing something, that challenges this foreign policy, Russia's policy, as far as conscripting the young people is concerned. There are two approaches to this. We have an African Union that is as a charter to look out for the welfare of the continent. That body should be speaking out against this kind of evil, and then every country on their own who have evidences that Russia is conscripting their young people or their elderly people into their army, they should also begin to speak up. So when voices begin to go up against this and to challenge in global justice arena, this will begin to raise the conversations and force Russia to stop this. We should have an inventory of how many of our people are on Russian soil right now. Where are they? What are they doing? And what is happening to them? So that we can be able to look out for their welfare. Anyone that we see is not schooling, is not at work there, we should suspect that they have been conscripted into the army, and we should make efforts to repatriate them back home. In short, or in summary, the welfare of Africans, either home or abroad, should take center stage as far as political and government thinking is concerned. Once that happens, we'll be able to look out for them wherever they are. They are citizens they are indigents of African countries, wherever they are, and we must look out for them. The issue of Africans being thrown into jail arbitrarily in India, in China, in European countries, and in Libya also should be looked into by African countries. Let's repatriate them back home. It's better for them to be alive and home here, contributing to our economy, than to be sent to war or thrown into jail or maltreated or killed unjustly outside of African soil.
And Dave, for those who argue that perhaps it's as a result of conditions back home, and that some of these people actually know what they are getting into. They're promised a Russian passport, and then they know that they're going to join the army there. And so perhaps they should take responsibility and not the country. How do you respond?
You see, every war has sectors. If you see the treatment they mete out to Africans there, strapping mines, strapping IEDs to them, and asking them to lead the charge where they blast themselves, they actually recruited into the suicide bombing squad of it. There are no dead heroes. You cannot get a Russian passport as a dead person. So those are, they lure them thinking or with a hope or with a promise that they are going to be in safer sectors of the battle, providing tech services here, providing health services to the wounded, and so on. So a lot of our young doctors, a lot of our tech people have been lured into all of these smooth promises of safe zones, and then they are now pushed into the heat of the battle. So those are the things we are talking about. Nobody in his right senses will accept a Russian passport promise only to be sent as a suicide bomber to the front lines. That's what we're talking about.
So how do we engage in a way that those who are already there are brought back to the country, and that we also avert the recruitment, that illegal recruitment cycle?
First of all, it begins with an inventory, a census, a poll of how many of our people are on Russian soil, either as workers, as students, or as diplomats. Whoever they are and whatever sector they are visa read, is to, number one, take an inventory, take stock of our people that are there. And number two, with our embassy on ground there, we're able to ascertain where these people are and what is happening with them. I believe that the embassy has the contact of all of Nigerians and Africans that are on Russian soil. We need to reach out to them by email or by calls to ascertain their welfare is intact and protected. That is the beginning point. It begins with that census. And number two, bilateral engagements using our foreign affairs. So a statement should be issued out by Nigeria already, joining those who are calling out, the Russian government for these kind of practices. And then number three, we should now begin to make moves to repatriate those who need to come back home. Anyone that lacks, the means or is being coerced into staying there under duress, those are the places where we should intervene, send a plane there, and bring our people back home. So when the smooth and the diplomatic way does not work, we should not send our jets there and then see that our people are brought back home, forcefully, so that at least they can be alive here. It's better to be alive here than to die there cheaply.
And back home, how do we ensure that more people are not being recruited?
You see, the issue of more people being recruited is a matter of enlightenment now. Not everybody, right now, a lot of young people are still clamoring and pressing to go to Russia because they are oblivious. They are ignorant of the situations on ground. So it calls for public enlightenment. When the video of Francis emerged, with a mind strapped to his chest, and then his mother was interviewed, a lot of Nigerians saw the agony. It was an eye-opener as to all what the allures and the deception and the promises of a good life in Russia, what the end of it was. So a lot of people began to take caution. A lot of those who even were processing their student visa, out of the fear of being conscripted forcefully into battle, they canceled it and went to other countries. Public enlightenment using the social media and then the traditional media is very, very, very important. The social media is important because that is the theater, that's the area of higher traffic for those who are prone to being lured into these battle zones and being recruited forcefully. So public enlightenment is very, very important. And then our relationship with the Russian embassies here, we should be able to, put a caveat. How many people are applying for Russian visa? We know all of those details, all of this data is available. So our relationship with them at the Russian embassy here, we should be able to stem the tide of those who are going. Even if they think they are going for legitimate reasons, they should now be counseled, let them be able to make an informed choice that will enable them to stay alive, right here or even in other countries where there are no crises. So number one,
absolutely,
let's take stock of our people that are there. Number two, let's engage with the government and engage with our people in public enlightenment.
All right.
Very, very important.
I mean, these are some of the measures that some countries have put in place, background checks as to visa applications and reasons for those visa applications. Interesting point you've made. David Ogbule, public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for talking to us.